You want to talk about rough play from young quarterbacks? How many of you saw what happened in Lincoln, Nebraska over the weekend? This is a wild game. Michigan State was down, then they were up, then they were down again. The line at FanDuel closed at, of course, I had to make this one of my best bets. I thought Michigan State would cover 11.5. They lose to Nebraska 38-27. Vegas undefeated. Dylan Raiola and Aiden Childs were doing their best Arch Manning impressions on Saturday. Raiola ends 16 of 24 for 194 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He played worse than that. His QBR was 18.9. Aiden Childs was 9 of 23 for 85 yards and 2 interceptions. He also feels like he played worse than that. Nebraska had one of the best play calls of the weekend on 3rd and goal early in the game. That was just fun. Shout out to Dana Holgerson, the Cornhuskers offensive coordinator. But, going into this matchup, I felt like it was one of those games Nebraska historically finds a way to lose. And, hey, time to figure out a way to win. Well, they did. They didn't play their best ball. They only ran for 88 yards. They turned the ball over. It was not great. But they found a way to win. And is Michigan State great? Nope. Nope, they're definitely not. But a reminder, the Nebraska schedule, which is going to be a similar theme with the teams I'll talk about next, Nebraska schedule, very favorable. Now, they go to Maryland next week. They're 4-1. Ask Washington how easy it is to go to Maryland. That's a respectable football team. Malik Washington, good young quarterback. Malik Washington, much better quarterback than Arch Manning. That's just a fact of life. So they go to Maryland. Then they've got Minnesota on a Friday. Then Northwestern. Oh, wait. Where are the tough games here? Then USC. That's at home. At UCLA. At Penn State. I mean, how hard is Penn State, really? And then Iowa. There's not currently a ranked team on their schedule. I don't think that's reflected in the AP top 25 anyway. Not mine. But that schedule for Nebraska, if they're able to have just one more loss, do they get in? They don't have a great win. They've lost to the only ranked team they've played so far. But would they get the Big Ten bias that applies to the SEC as well? If you're 10-2, you get to go to the playoff. We'd find out. By the way, I'd like to point out that week 1 win against Cincinnati is looking better and better. The Bearcats look like a surprise team in the Big 12. 2-0 to begin league play with a win over a couple of solid teams in Iowa State and Kansas. So just going to throw that one out there. That win might accumulate in value over time. But Nebraska, man, they were a pretty popular, I'd say fairly popular, playoff surprise team over their win total of 7.5, which I took them to do as well before the year. I wonder, like, are they right there or are they a year away? They remind me a little bit of Michigan, where I see the potential, I see promise, but I'm just kind of, It's why I picked Cincinnati to upset Iowa State over the weekend. Now, I didn't make it a best bet, so that's, of course, what resulted in Cincinnati getting it done. But I'd watched Iowa State this year, and they were 5-0 and ranked 15th, and I went, yeah, it's yeah. Like something's just kind of missing. The cohesion, the pop, the wow, the thing you do really well. Like, I think Nebraska's okay. It's a good, solid win, but frankly, for the Cornhuskers fans, I don't think there are any real vibes here. And I feel the same way about Michigan State. You went and lost in the exact way that I expected you to. Same thing with Florida. Like, yeah, they win. I don't think Florida fans should be over the moon. Frankly, I think they should be disappointed that Napier has a chance to save his job the rest of the season. You're not going to the playoffs. You're not going to make the SEC championship game. What are you playing for at this point? To keep around your coach so he can go 6-6 again next year? Nebraska's in a different spot. Nebraska is trying to kind of Indiana SMU their way into the playoff with, no really great wins, a couple of okay ones, and hey, our record's good and we play in a good conference. Do we get into the playoff? That could absolutely happen. But I just wonder, if they can go on the road and handle Maryland and Minnesota in the next couple of weeks, I'd feel better about it. I suspect they lose one of those games and probably end the year, as I predicted, with 9 wins. But over 7.5, I like that bet before the year. on with our friends at FanDuel, and I still feel that way about Nebraska. But yeah, that was an ugly game. Ugly game. So, speaking of teams to just keep an eye on for the playoffs, are you ready to talk about Duke and Virginia yet? I'll talk about Miami on tomorrow's show. They were really impressive. I'm really impressed with Miami. Hard to not be at this point in the year with the way that they're playing football. The biggest threats to them in the ACC, in no particular order, are Georgia Tech, number one, and then in a tie for second, Virginia and Duke. Virginia found a way to win on the road at Louisville last week. Duke won convincingly on the road in a cross-country trip against Cal. Darian Mensa's coming into a groove. Those teams haven't lost an ACC conference game yet. And does that speak to where the ACC is at? Maybe. Maybe it does. I watched Tulane beat Duke, and they were the better football team earlier this year, but Tulane's also a top 25 team in my Locked On College Football poll. So, are you ready to hear that conversation? You should be. Because right now, Virginia and Duke are controlling their own paths to get to the ACC championship game and maybe the playoff. I don't think either gets there as an at-large. But if you go to the ACC championship game, you're going to have a chance. And last year, Arizona State was a surprise team. And maybe in the Big 12 this year, it's going to be Cincinnati. But these teams are, they're good, at least. I don't think that they're great, but are they good? Yeah, they might be good enough. And you might look around at the end of the year, and all three of these teams, Nebraska, Duke, and Virginia, I think have the same thing in common. Because they don't have particularly tough paths forward, and they are good teams but not great ones, they could be this year's SMU or Indiana from last year, where you look up and go, hey, I guess they're getting in the playoff kind of by default because they're the best remaining, because they're taking care. There's a long way to go. We've still got about half the regular season left in conference championship week. Long way to go. But we have passed the point where these stories can't be ignored, and I bet they're not on a lot of people's radar. But Virginia and Duke, I liked Duke coming into the year. Didn't have Virginia on the radar. Did not think they were going to be there. But lo and behold, Clemson's downfall has created an opening, and Georgia Tech has filled it most significantly. But that ACC title race, that looks like Miami in the field right now, with Clemson not playing anywhere near its full potential. I'll talk about what they did in North Carolina on tomorrow's show. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.